Well, there are moments in history that carve themselves into the soul of a nation. Moments when violence strikes not just the cities and people, but a collective sense of security and identity. One such moment for Israel was October 7th. It's almost 2 years from the southern Israel's carnage, but why Netanyahu has decided to go all guns blazing in Gaza now? Does Israel want to achieve its objective before multiple US allies move to recognize the state of Palestine? Or there's something else? The world remembers the terror of 9/11 in the United States, where airplanes carved fear into the New York skyline. India still mourns the carnage of 26/11 in Mumbai, where armed terrorists burned bustling streets of Maximum City into a theatre of war. For Israel, October 7, 2023 stands in the same tragic lineage, a day that cleaved the nation's sense of safety and grief, uniting the population in trauma, outrage and purpose, just as all of those did for Americans and Indians. It was the first large-scale invasion of Israeli territory since the 1948 Arab-Israel War. On the morning of October 7, 2023, a Jewish holiday celebration turned into a massacre when Hamas terrorists launched a surprise assault on shocking scale and brutality. The toll was devastating, with more than 1,100 Israelis killed, entire families massacred, and hundreds taken hostages. It was the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust, and the trauma rippled globally. Now fast forward to August 2025. Till now, Israel offensive has battered Hamas but not finished the terror group. Almost 2 years later, since October 7, 2023, the Israeli Defense Forces and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu articulated both the urgency and symbolism behind their recent renewed military push in Gaza. Well, it seems like Netanyahu has made it very clear that the path forward for Israeli would be one of defiance and resolve, not just for national survival, but as a response worthy of a scale of the October 7th tragedy. The plan specially focuses on Gaza City is deeply symbolic. The city is Hamas's nerve center and was said to be the launch pad for the October 7 attack. To take Gaza by or before the second anniversary would be a big message to Israeli citizens and to the world that Israel is not to be undone by terror. Yet this pursuit has ignited furious debate and unrest far beyond Israel's border. Pro-Palestine protests are flaring up across cities like London and Sydney, where tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, filled the streets demanding ceasefire and justice for Palestinian civilians. First, let's talk about London protests. London has become a focal point for both pro-Palestine protests and government response. Over the last weekend, hundreds of thousands marched towards Downing Street chanting "Free Palestine and stop the genocide." Then comes Sydney protest. In fact, in Sydney, pro-Palestinian protests hit a peak on August 3, 2025 with a March of Humanity that closed the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge to vehicles. In fact, protesters demanded strict sanctions against Israel and drew attention towards the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. While protesters condemn Israel's action and call for a ceasefire, governments in the UK and many other nations have responded with ban and mass arrests, citing public security and anti-terrorism laws. It is also important for you to remember that these protests come at a time when countries like Australia, Britain, and several other nations are openly contemplating recognizing a Palestinian state, adding further pressure on Israel's tactics and the international narrative. So now a very important question surfaces. On one hand, these governments are planning to recognize Palestinian state, and on the other hand, they are cracking down on protests with allying interest. Why? Is it just about law and order, or they want to take a stand but on selective bullet points? Netanyahu laid out 5 critical war objectives, which now frames Israel's campaign. First comes the disarmament of Hamas, which by removing its military capability to prevent another massacre like October 7. In fact, the most important one remains to be the return of all hostages, restoring dignity and hope for families and for the entire nation of Israel. Then comes Gaza's demilitarization, ensuring no future threat emanates from this very territory. Then comes ongoing Israeli security control over Gaza, safeguarding Israel's citizens from any sort of future attacks. Then comes the most highlighted one, a new civilian administration in Gaza without Hamas or the Palestinian authorities, a vision of post-war Gaza that could enable peace, however, many say fragile. As Israel advances towards Gaza City, the clock ticks not just toward a military deadline, but a moment of reckoning. The October 7 anniversary is more than just a date. It represents a turning point for Israel's identity, its promise of safety of every citizen, and also war against terrorism. In the hearts of Israelis, this is not only a war for territory, but the right to grieve, defend, and ultimately heal.